Well, good day to everyone. It's Carpo, and I'm going to make one of my final trim and chat videos because, because I'm almost done, finally. As I was working on this, clipping these buds, I was listening to a video by Rupert Spira. He was recommended to me a while back by someone. So I checked him out. I found him to be initially dry and wasn't the type of speaker that I am easy to follow. He's very soft-spoken, collects his thoughts well, and it's funny because he has this laugh and this demeanor that reminds me of Eckhart Tolle, which I also find to be a dry speaker, yet his points are very good. And for a lot of people, this method of gathering information from people that are very soft-spoken and very to the point is the best method for a lot of folks. For me personally, I find that I like to get my information fast and hard. Not in the sense that I want to learn it fast or it should be given right away, is that I process things quickly and I have to get as much across at one point. Anyway, I was listening to him and I find his, I have a newfound, respect for his method of conveyance of his messages, but the subject matter is very difficult. Him and Eckhart both talk about living in the now. That's a major focal point of much of what we talk about in this modern, if you want to call it new age, you can. Whatever you choose to label it, the idea of knowing ourselves and our place in the universe. And the question that always arises for me is, how much can we know and how much must we learn? In other words, is anything out there that we can really just know? Now, with the several discussions I've had with people on the basis of science and religion and the attachment that people have to both, to try to explain the world around them. So the science is based on observation and research, and theology and religion is based on faith and hope. Where does the middle fall? In other words, is there anything that we don't have to just have faith to believe, and that we don't have to have proof to believe, but that we can actually sense and experience without being able to explain it? I believe we can. I have many different feelings that I haven't been able to convey in my life, but others have been able to word them much more eloquently than I ever could, although they're still just words in the end. No word can describe the feeling that comes with that oneness with the universe, the all, that feeling that you're moving seamlessly through life. And along the way, there's all kinds of problems. We have all kinds of hold-ups, addictions. People die, people are born, jobs change, lives change. And there are some very enduring, I guess the most important thing to me would be which of the things that do endure through those times. Which types of feelings are the most important? Which emotions have I expressed that have brought me grief, and which ones have brought me joy? We can't always do what brings us joy, but we can change what doesn't bring us joy and transmute that into something that makes us happy. And I think that's an essential component. So another question I had was, with religion telling us this is how things are because it says this here, and science telling us this is how things are because we see this here, or that we've observed it or tested it. Many of the results are, let's say, iffy at best, and unresolvable, and non-repeatable. This is where science has its hold-up, is the non-repeatable. And one of many. Scientific method is the best method that we have right now to understand the world around us. There is a reason why we use it. So those who are opposed to science just don't understand how important, how hard we work to try to find a system to explain the world. And it's definitely flawed, but it's the best we have for many of the things around us. So science helps us to understand how things work. Now, let me rephrase that. Science helps us to understand what things are comprised of or composed of. It doesn't tell us why they are composed of that. In other words, let's take evolution for example. The what is there. It's evolution. We have the evidence. We have enough proof to show that people did evolve. This doesn't discredit or disprove any other, religious ideas, because evolution and, let's say, creationism don't need to necessarily be opposing forces. The way I see it is that everything is being created through evolution. It's an evolution of mind, the universal mind. So, which of these things can we really gain from as far as, is science able to tell us why we're here? Is science able to tell us what will make us happy? And my conclusion is that the only method for one to really attain true happiness is through the alchemy of the attitudes and the understanding of things happening for a purpose that we don't understand. It's very difficult to express this, but some people believe that things just happen because, well, they happen. And I believe that it's just chance, right? And I believe that to an extent. But then there's others who believe that everything has a purpose, that every single moment is purposeful. And I can see how that could also be true. Because trying to express these things is difficult. Can a human grasp infinity? No. I mean, there's people out there telling us that the universe is infinite and that everything's timeless. I've tried to grasp that idea, and I can't. I'm honest. And I don't think that anyone can. I don't think that it's within the human mind. I don't think it's within our faculties to be able to comprehend eternity. So, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think that we have the capacity to understand some of the things that we think are the most important things to understand. So, when a person can become collected enough to set aside that frantic search for truth, it's a path that I've been on for many years, but it hasn't caused me conflict or problems in the way that I haven't become so obsessed about truth that I miss it. The truth of right now, of the existence at this moment. I'm working with this plant, and when I was sitting here, it was kind of what brought this to mind. I was thinking about how we consider ourselves separate from everything around us. Anyone who's taken psychedelics anyone who's experimented with psychedelics, any psychonauts out there know that there's a feeling that you get when you've taken psychedelics that regardless of whether or not it's manifested through the mind or a universal consciousness, you gain an insight about the world around you that's a feeling you can't express. And this is why people gain these amazing awarenesses during heavy psychedelic trips that they can't bring back with them. I've done this so many times. I mean, when I was younger, acid was readily available and I took a lot of it. And it was always good stuff. And then I discovered mushrooms later, and it was a completely different consciousness. And the mushrooms are like, they put a demand on you. It's like they demand respect, let's put it that way. But anyway, without getting too far into psychedelics, when you take psychedelics, it gives me, when I take psychedelics, a feeling of complete connection with everything around me. And everything seems to flow seamlessly. That feeling is very difficult to bring back from a trip. I've been developing that same feeling through my life. My thought is that this is a state of awareness that can be attained through other means, and that psychedelics get you a glimpse of this awareness. And so for the last 20 years, it's been my hope that one day I can get to that point where everything is seamless, and I'm just following not just natural law, but I'm actually manifesting the future, to the best of my ability, which means you have to live in harmony. You have to have the right signal in order to tune in. And so I guess I've gotten to the point in my life now where I've stopped trying to dispute it, as far as, I should say, I've stopped trying to explain it to people who don't understand what I'm talking about, because there's nothing a person would want more than to have a type of awareness about the universe. Those who claim that they do have an awareness are often ridiculed, and others say, well, you think you know something that others don't, or prove that your God is right, or prove your belief is right. If someone's still trying to prove to you that their belief is right, then the belief doesn't have enough credibility, or else the person isn't willing to look at the evidence. But regardless of that, the person who's trying to convey the message is often obscured by, their points are obscured because the other person is either not prepared for it, or because the other person thinks a completely different way. And I guess don't really know how else to express it, except that the feeling that I get now, the connection that I have to the universe, is something I can't express in words. Every time I move myself closer and put the intention forward to understand the world and myself, every time I bite my tongue from, rebelling against something that is fruitless, whenever I use my sense of self to understand that my ego is speaking, all these things help me to grow. And, I'm 38 right now. I have a long way to go. I'm immature in many ways. Plenty of people out there who are much more mature than I am. And I don't deny that. That's just part of life. I don't have any misgivings about who I am. I have many strong thoughts about what I think could be real, or what I may or may not believe, but all of that's irrelevant to just existence. And that's really, I guess, all I'm trying to convey, is that we've tried to grasp things like infinity, God, heaven, the meaning of life. It's not an obsession for me, it's just an interesting search. For me, I look at life like a carnival, I'm going from ride to ride and just enjoying them all. Sometimes I'll go back to another ride and try it again, And it's all fun. For some people, it can be suffering, searching for truth. It can be heartbreaking, and it becomes difficult for them because they get frustrated when they don't find the answers that they're seeking. I've often been misunderstood by people who think that I spend all of my time trying to find truth. It's just not how it is. I spend very little of my time trying to find truth. I'm actually usually, I'm a philosopher. I think about life. I process life. I don't pretend like I understand it, but I understand my life. And so if that would be the root message, I guess, would be we're so concerned with understanding other people and why they are the way they are, we forget about ourselves. And if you've ever stood outside and watched yourself, you know, you can laugh at our flaws and our faults. Because if you're willing to admit your flaws and your faults, then you don't have any. It's just something to work on. It's just another part of the system. The more we deny and resist what is true, whatever that may be, we are punished for it. A person who is consistently negative towards others and consistently trying to avoid friends and people, and the person will suffer because of it. And it has nothing to do with external forces. It's his own internal life, because everything is reflected through the individual. The entirety of the universe is right there, right here. So, I guess to conclude, to a lot of people, this way of thinking may seem delusional. But the relevance of what another person thinks to me about how I see things would have to be based on whether or not they can see through my eyes and understand what I'm trying to express, which, like I said, cannot be expressed easily in words. In that sense, a person's opinion on my beliefs or thoughts really is completely irrelevant. But I do observe other people and what they think and believe, because this gives me a wider understanding of people. Because no matter how much of a conviction you have in your heart about something, if 99% of the people disagree with you, you have to consider that aspect. We fool ourselves into thinking that everything is so complex, but it can be simplified by simplifying the mind. And you don't have to be a simpleton to do it. It's not about ignoring anything. It's not about just living and saying, forget about all that. It's about looking at everything as a pattern. And when you look at it as a pattern, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. You just see these circular patterns repeating over and over. Think of it as a moving bus, and if you follow, if you match the speed of the bus, you can jump on. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but once you're on the bus, you can ride with it. And you might have other people on that same bus that are interested in going to the same place as you. You might get off at a stop and move to another bus. The destination's irrelevant. It's the journey. But at the same time, the journey requires that we improve ourselves. That's something you can observe in nature. There's very little else that I can really know for sure, except that we are here to improve who we are. So I'm doing the best to improve who I am. I'm doing the best to try to help the world around me, but I know I can do more, and I know I can do better. I'm still caught up in some of the self-righteous actions of humanity. Self-preservation, addictions, compulsions, problems with paying attention or listening, learning how to be a better human. And no one can tell you, you can only feel it. And that, my friends, is the crux of my argument, if there was one. It's that when you're doing the right thing, you know it. And when you're doing the wrong thing, you know it. The question is, how much can we rely on what we know? Are we all knowing? Do we all have the capacity to understand everything? Or are there individuals who are more highly advanced, who are more apt to understand these things? And as soon as we start assigning people titles, it all loses meaning. As soon as we start forming groups, it all loses meaning. But I did want to leave on one note about forming groups. When people talk about secret societies, which maybe at one time were secret. There's no really secrets in there anymore, but I've heard a lot of folks say that knowledge should be universal. It should all be shared. And then other people will say, well, knowledge should be kept away from those who are not prepared for it. And I'm somewhere in the middle, where I believe that the knowledge is all available to all of us, but we have to prepare ourselves to understand it. So, in other words, you can't get a bunch of scientists, different types of scientists together, and then expect them to understand each other if they're not on the same page, using the same books, doing the same type of work. And this is the same with any other type of self-improvement or life journey, is that you have to walk the path alone, but having others around you to help you do that is very important. Other people that can, I guess, help to give you that type of boost that you need. But you have to be careful not to let the other people warp you into thinking the way they do. It's a matter of, rather than saying, this is what I believe, everyone else should come believe this, it's a matter of, this is what this person and this person believe, and we came together because we believed similar things. Religion, belief, theology, whatever a person believes, should not have to be taught. It should be understood. This is my opinion. It should be understood by everyone. It should be readily available to everyone without a middleman, without a secondary source, because we are all source. And that's how I feel. I can't prove it, but that's the best I can do to express it. I don't know what happens before or after we die, but I know that energy is carried on. It's an amazing world. Take care.